Hello, welcome back to class. We're going to learn about a couple different sewing supplies. So hopefully you took me up on that challenge, and why don't you go ahead and grab your sheet and check the answers. So this first one right up here, I hope you wrote the word pin. It's okay if you didn't know. It was just kind of a fun little challenge. So right here is a pin. This is called a thimble, and you can put that on your finger or your thumb. Kind of helps protect you from getting poked by these pins as you're sewing. Of course, you probably knew scissors, and this one is a little hard to see, but that is a tape measure. It's kind of like a ruler, but it's nice and flexible, kind of like a ribbon, so we can measure. Right here, this is a button. You probably have this on your jeans or a couple of your outfits or coats. This one, I going to be honest, I think it's a sewing machine. So if you got that one wrong, that's okay. It's hard to see. Sorry. And right here, this is a needle and a thread. So right here is your pin. This is a needle. It'll have a hole in it. You can use that for hand sewing. Right here is the spool of thread. This is called a pin cushion right here. And it's really nice if you have one of these. You can kind of keep your pins organized. So as you're taking them out of the pattern, you just put them back in that nice little pin cushion, keeps them safe and secure. And this is a zipper. So some others to review. These are really nice. This is called the dress form, and it's kind of like a mannequin where you can adjust the size a lot of times so you can get the perfect fit. So instead of trying things on and altering it, you just kind of pin it in place. A lot of times you'll put the outfit inside out when you pin it, so that way it's just ready to be sewn. And these are a little hard to see, but these are needles that you can put into your sewing machine. There's that thimble to protect your fingers. We have spools of thread, scissors, and these can be different things. This might be tracing paper. This is probably tracing paper in this picture. Or it could be fusible web, different items to make your fabric maybe stiff, which you would iron onto the fabric. Gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more stability. Of course, safety pins are really helpful a lot of times. This is a pattern. We're going to have some fun checking out different kind of patterns that we can make really cool projects. These are called nippers. A lot of times they just kind of nip the little threads. They're easier than scissors sometimes. If you don't have nippers, I usually don't use them. I have them, but I just always use my scissors, but these will help cut the thread. You can get really intricate. Some people use them to rip out the seams. If you made a mistake, you might want to rip out the seams. So my mom uses these. I use a thread ripper, which kind of, we'll see that in a second. It's kind of like a hook, and it just slices through the threads. More buttons, 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 buttons. Irons are important. Make sure you have a grown-up with you because they can get quite hot. You can use them with or without steam. Sometimes it depends on what you have. There'll be settings on your iron, and you got to be really careful to set it correctly because there's cotton and different kinds of fabrics, linens, polyester. Polyester can melt. So you want to be careful that you make sure that your iron is at the right setting, or it can burn through your item, and you don't want to ruin your fabric or ruin your project. Of course, right here, this is what we're going to have some fun with, is a sewing machine. There's that pin cushion. Tape measures are sometimes in spools or just long ribbons, like up in here. Scissors, these are bobbins. Sometimes bobbins are plastic or metal. Always use the bobbins that are right for your machine. If you use the wrong bobbin, it can jam your threads. And this right here is a cool little tool. It can kind of help you thread a needle. So here's your needle and thread. This just makes it easier. You're nice and young, so probably your eyesight's better than mine. Maybe not, but I have glasses, so it gets a little hard to see sometimes. And right here is an ironing board. Ironing boards are really good because it provides a soft but firm plane, a little table that you can iron on without damaging. You don't want to ever do it on a plastic table. It can kind of damage your wood table too. So it's always good to use an ironing board if you need to iron. So some sewing machines, most of them require oiling. They're kind of changing a little bit, but the machines I have some industrial ones, which are commercial. I also have regular sewing machines, and sewing machine oil kind of helps keep things lubricated. It's always good to have a brush. Try to check your little compartment in your sewing machine to make sure you have a brush, because you're going to want to clean out all the lint that's going to collect in the bobbin area. Pencils are good. You can mark where you want to sew, or you can trace patterns. These are always good to have. I don't really use these, but a lot of people really like them. You got your scissors. Right here is a seam ripper. One should have come with your machine. So if you can try to look for that, those are going to come in handy. If you ever make a mistake, don't worry about it. You can just rip out the seams, but you got to be really careful because they can poke through the fabric. So you want to make sure you just lift up on the thread. Otherwise you could damage your fabric. Right here is a tape measure. It's all coiled up. Here you see some plastic bobbins. My machine usually takes metal ones. I got so many different machines and I sew so much. I call it my sewing machine graveyard with 15 dead machines. But if you ever have problems with your machine, you can take it to get serviced. Usually that costs anywhere from $80 to $120. So it depends on how expensive your machine is, if it's worth getting cleaned, or if you just want to buy a new one. And you probably won't sew as much as I do. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you fall in love with sewing. But I usually sew like 16 hours a day, or at least I did. And some of my machines cost over $4,000. So it's worth it to pay $200-300 to get it fixed. Right here, I think this one is probably where you put your needles. I have a hard time seeing it. I don't have the best eyesight. Right here is some needles. It's nice that sometimes they come in some plastic casing. You just kind of pull the top part back and it kind of exposes the needle so you can pull it out. And of course that is your pin cushion. So let's go over a couple things. These are just some cute little bows you can add. You can make your items extra special. You got your buttons. Sometimes just cute little buttons make a difference. And they come in all different kinds. So if you want a fancy outfit, you could, let's say, have a black jacket and add rhinestone type buttons. Or if you wanted something fun, maybe you want to give it to a teacher, you can make some apple buttons on that jacket. Just kind of personalizes things. This right here, there's that threader, kind of helps you thread that needle and thread. You're going to want to take good care of your items. If you made some clothes, and I'll have future classes if you ever want to take some how to make a skirt, or maybe some leggings, or some fun projects, even hats, scarves, mittens, footies for your kind of like slippers. But take good care of your stuff. Safety pins can be helpful sometimes. Here is a glue gun. I'm going to tell you a little secret. If you ever want to, and I don't tell people this, this has taken me years upon years. So it is definitely a secret. So don't tell people. There's something called E6000, and it is an amazing glue. You can rhinestone out your jeans or a jacket, and that stuff is pretty durable. It will hold up through washings, you sitting with your jean pockets rubbing on your seat. So that's a pretty good glue. It's called E6000 if you ever want to embellish things, but that's a secret. Like I don't even tell grown-ups that. Here's your tape measure, your spool of thread, nice pins. And this is just if you ever want to do some, as my mom calls it, needling. If you ever want to knit, you can use some yarn with some needles, and they come in all different sizes. The size of a needle is really important, even on our sewing machine. So we'll talk more about that in another video. But depending on if you're using jeans, there is a denim needle, because jeans are a little bit harder. If you ever want to sew on leather can be really hard on your machine. I used to make a lot of dance costumes, and I was able to sew through sequins. And I made a lot of extra money because I put sequins on outfits, but you got to be real careful. You have a super sharp needle, that you do it slowly. Um, and I would break quite a few needles doing that. And each of my needles cost about $1. So if you ever start selling your items, make sure you take all that into an account. And it was also really hard on my machine. So I only did it for extra special customers instead of doing it on all my outfits, because it's really hard on your machine. And that's why I have my sewing machine graveyard with a lot of dead machines. I just burnt through them. So definitely take care of your machine. We'll talk about cleaning it and caring for it. So just to go over it, these are some kind of cool old fashioned ones. Actually, maybe I should show you mine. I have an antique one and it's kind of cool. It's down in my basement. Um, I have to clean my basement to show you. So I'll take you on a little tour of some different machines. And here are those nippers again. They're just easier. They're just thread clippers. These are kind of nice because they're just kind of hinged and you just kind of squeeze them. Or you can put your fingers through the holes and use some scissors. Dress forms are really great. I usually just use my mannequins. I have a dress form over at my parents' house. But they can be helpful if you ever need that. If not, you can try the stuff on, maybe have somebody help you pin it. And pins are really good when you first start sewing. As you get better, it's nice if you don't have to. Depends on the fabric. If you're making something that doesn't stretch, it's better to pin it. Most of my stuff were leotards and bathing suits and bodybuilding competition things. So it didn't have to be quite as exact because the fabric had some stretch to it. So if it moved a little bit, it's still kind of, when it was on the body, it kind of formed a little better. But if you're trying to do exact quilting, pins are really helpful. My mom is a quilter and uses pins. I use the stretchy fabrics, and we're going to start making some more projects with like purses and bags, denim items. And so we're going to be using some pins. So if you guys could kind of collect some pins, and we'll get a supply list for our project and get started. And I can't wait to see you again. All right. So I hope you did the challenge. Please upload your project and I will see you in the next class.